You have 48 hours to figure out which one of you is the thief, or every single person on this team is gone. My manager, Alan, delivered his ultimatum while staring directly at me, not at any of the 11 other people in the conference room. His eyes were cold, accusatory, like he'd already decided I was guilty. Behind him, his son Jake leaned against the wall, pretending to check his phone, the hint of a smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. 12 faces drained of color. Some looked down, others looked at each other. A few brave souls looked at Alan. Nobody spoke. The prototypes were worth $240,000 total. More importantly, they contained our next-generation technology. If a competitor got hold of them, 2 years of work would be compromised. I don't want to do this, Alan continued, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. But corporate is demanding answers, and I'm not losing my job to protect a thief. I'm Claire. I've been in product development for 6 years. I've trained most of the people in this room. I stay late. I come in early. I've canceled vacations when deadlines loomed. When team members have personal emergencies, I cover their shifts without complaint. Jake has been here 8 months. He comes in late, leaves early, and makes careless mistakes I quietly fix before quality control catches them. Why? Because he's the boss's son. Untouchable. Everyone knows it. Can we check the security footage? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Alan's jaw tightened. Already did. Whoever took them knew exactly how to avoid the cameras. Of course they did. Jake knew where every camera was positioned. I'd seen him pointing them out to the new intern last month, bragging about the building's blind spots. The meeting ended. People filed out in stunned silence. I returned to my desk and tried to focus on work, but my mind kept racing. 6 prototypes. 6 sleek, handheld devices that represented millions in development costs. Gone. Lena stopped by my desk after lunch. "This is insane," she whispered. "He can't fire all of us." "He can if corporate backs him," I said. "They'll just hire a new team." "Do you think?" She glanced around and lowered her voice even more. "It could be Jake?" I gave her a warning look. Even whispering such things was dangerous. Jake might be careless with his work, but Alan was fiercely protective of his son. I thought about all the times I'd covered for Jake, logging prototype units back into inventory when he forgot, filing damage reports under my own name so he wouldn't get written up, taking blame for delays he caused. I did it because I believed in our team, all of us, even Jake. I did it because starting conflicts with the boss's son would only hurt morale. I did it because I thought I was being a good leader. Now, looking at Lena's worried face, I wondered if I'd been wrong all along. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Jake volunteering to lock up on Fridays, about his master key, given to him by his father, despite company policy, about the casual way he'd asked me last month if I knew anyone who bought refurbished tech parts. At 3 a.m., I made a decision. I got dressed and drove back to the office. I didn't break any rules. I used my regular access card to enter the building. Security knew me. I often came in early or stayed late. I went straight to the equipment room where we all had lockers. Jake's was in the corner. It had a combination lock, 4 digits. I remembered overhearing him tell Ben it was his birth year. I didn't open it. I just stared at it, thinking, if I reported my suspicions to Alan, one of 2 things would happen. Either he wouldn't believe me and would retaliate against me for accusing his son, or he would believe me and cover it up, possibly by framing someone else. I'd seen him protect Jake before. 3 months ago, when Jake damaged an expensive testing machine, Alan blamed the maintenance team. A good man lost his job. I went home without touching the locker. Sleep still wouldn't come. The next morning, Alan called another meeting. He looked worse than the day before. Red-eyed, pale, tie slightly askew. "Corporate is sending an internal investigator," he announced. "If we don't find the prototypes by Friday, I'll have no choice but to start termination paperwork for the entire team." His eyes swept across everyone before landing on me again. "If anyone knows anything, now's the time to come forward." The room was silent. Jake sat in the back, scrolling through his phone, completely unconcerned. After the meeting, I waited for everyone to disperse. I didn't go to Alan's office. Instead, I took the elevator down to the first floor and walked directly to the security desk. Rita, head of security, was reviewing footage on her monitor. She looked up when I approached. "I need to speak with you," I said quietly, privately. She raised an eyebrow but led me to her small office off the main lobby. "What can I do for you, Claire?" I've noticed something unusual in the equipment room, I said carefully. I think someone should investigate. This about the missing prototypes? I nodded. I'm not making any accusations, but I've seen someone acting strangely around locker number 27 recently, especially last Friday. Whose locker is that? Jake Howard's, I said, using his full name to make it clear I wasn't playing favorites. Alan Howard's son. Rita's expression didn't change, but I saw something shift in her eyes. I see. I'm not asking for special treatment, I clarified. Follow normal protocols. But please, check that locker. Rita nodded slowly. We'll investigate. Standard procedure. I went back to my desk. Tried to work. Hours passed in a fog of anxiety. At 2:37 p.m., I heard the commotion. Raised voices 2 floors down. Then the elevator dinged on our floor, and 2 security officers stepped out, followed by Rita and Alan. Their faces told the story before any words were spoken. They'd found the prototypes. Alan's face was ashen as they marched toward Jake, who was just returning from a long lunch break. The look of confusion on Jake's face quickly morphed into panic as Rita explained they'd found all 6 missing prototypes in his locker, wrapped in his jacket. That's not possible, Jake stammered. Someone must have put them there. I'm being framed. Alan looked at his son, then at the security team, then at his son again. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the executive responsible for company property versus the father protecting his son. We need to continue this discussion downstairs, Rita said firmly. Corporate has already been notified. As they led Jake away, his eyes locked with mine for a brief moment. Did he suspect? I kept my face neutral, my eyes calm. But there was something he didn't know, something no one knew except me. While security was discovering the physical evidence in Jake's locker, another bomb was about to drop. Because last night, after I left the office, I'd done something else. Something that would destroy not just Jake's job, but the very thing Alan valued more than his career or reputation. Before I went to security, I discovered something on Jake's phone. Once, about a month ago, he'd left it face up on his desk. When he went to the bathroom, a notification had popped up, a text from someone named Mia. I couldn't help seeing the preview. Can you get me another one? My boss was impressed. I didn't touch his phone. I didn't need to. That single message was enough for me to start connecting dots. A little research on LinkedIn revealed that Mia worked in product strategy at Vertex Tech, our biggest competitor. More discreet digging uncovered they'd met at an industry mixer 3 months ago. Shortly after, Jake started volunteering to handle inventory, started asking about prototype sign-out procedures, started staying late on Fridays. What Jake didn't realize was that I had access to the company email archive for our department, a security measure implemented after a data breach last year. Every email, even deleted ones, was stored for 90 days. So last night, after visiting the office, I went home and logged into the archive. I found emails between Jake and Mia, professional at first, then increasingly personal, then incriminating. My father doesn't even know what's happening in his own department, Jake had written. These prototypes are game changers, and he's too busy playing corporate politics to notice when they go missing. Another email. It's almost too easy. The old man trusts me completely. He thinks I'm learning the family business. What a joke. And the most damaging, I've got access to everything. Dad handed me a master key on my first day. He's so desperate for me to follow in his footsteps that he'd probably cover for me if I emptied the entire supply room. I created a new email account and forwarded these messages to Alan's personal address, the one he'd accidentally used to send a team email once. I didn't add any commentary. The emails spoke for themselves. I had timed it perfectly. He would have received them this morning, likely checked them during lunch, just hours before security discovered the physical evidence. Now, watching Jake being escorted away, I saw the devastation on Alan's face. This wasn't just about the stolen prototypes anymore. This was about betrayal on a deeper level. The office buzzed with shocked conversations after they left. Everyone speculating, theorizing. I kept to myself, focused on my screen, tried to look as surprised as everyone else. Lena stopped by my desk. Can you believe it, Jake? All this time. I shook my head. I guess we never really know people. What do you think will happen now? I don't know, I said truthfully. But I don't think Alan will be firing the whole team anymore. I was right. 2 hours later, Alan sent an email to the department. In stiff, formal language, He explained that the missing prototypes had been recovered, the responsible party identified, and normal operations should resume. He thanked us for our patience and cooperation. He didn't come back to the office that day. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to thank you for listening to my story so far. It means a lot to have someone hear me out. Tell me where you're listening from. I'm curious to know who's hearing my voice right now. My name is Claire Wilson. I've worked in tech for nearly a decade, the last 6 years in product development. I'm 34, single, with a cat named Electron. Yes, I'm that kind of nerd. I keep a small garden on my apartment balcony, mostly herbs and one stubborn tomato plant that refuses to produce more than 3 tomatoes each summer. People tell me I'm loyal to a fault, that I take on too much responsibility for things that aren't my job. My sister says I need to learn to let people fail sometimes. Maybe she's right. What people don't usually notice is how observant I am. I remember details, conversations from months ago, the precise wording of emails, which security cameras have blind spots, who has access to what. I don't flaunt this ability. I just quietly keep track. I've been passed over for promotion 3 times. Each time, the position went to someone with fewer qualifications, but better connections. The last time, 6 months ago, Alan had practically promised me the senior developer role. Then Jake joined the company, and suddenly, there was restructuring. The promotion disappeared. I don't hold grudges. At least, that's what I tell myself. But I remember. The next day, Alan was back at work. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. He didn't call any meetings. He stayed in his office, door closed. Corporate sent an email to the entire company about a security incident that had been successfully resolved. They assured everyone that no proprietary information had been compromised. They didn't mention Jake. By afternoon, rumors were flying. Someone in HR leaked that Jake had been terminated. Someone else said he'd been arrested. The most persistent rumor was that he'd been stealing prototypes for months and selling information to competitors. I kept my head down and did my work. At 4:30, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. I know it was you. You'll regret this. I stared at the screen. Jake. It had to be. I blocked the number without responding. On my way home, I took a different route than usual, checked my rearview mirror more often, felt a knot of anxiety in my chest that hadn't been there before. That night, someone threw a rock through my living room window. The police came, took a report, said it was probably neighborhood kids. I didn't tell them about the text. I had no proof it was connected. I didn't sleep. Kept thinking about Jake's access to company records. My address would have been easy for him to find. The next day at work, Alan called me into his office. My heart pounded as I sat across from him. His desk was cleared. No family photos anymore. The frame that had held a picture of him and Jake at a baseball game was gone. Claire, he said, his voice hollow, I owe you an apology. I kept my face neutral. For what? For accusing the team. For putting everyone's jobs at risk. He hesitated. For not seeing what was happening right in front of me. I nodded but didn't speak. Corporate is conducting a full investigation. They believe Jake may have been selling information to competitors for several months. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Not for what I'd done, but for the pain on his face. The senior developer position is open again, he said abruptly. I'd like you to take it. Effective immediately. The promotion I'd wanted for over a year. Thank you, I said. I appreciate the opportunity. He nodded, then looked down at his desk. Our meeting was clearly over. As I stood to leave, he spoke again. Someone sent me emails. Private emails between Jake and someone at Vertex. Did you know anything about that? My heart stuttered. I kept my expression carefully blank. No. What emails? He studied my face for a long moment, then shook his head. Never mind. Congratulations on the promotion. I walked out, feeling his eyes on my back. Did he suspect? Did he know? I couldn't tell. The next few weeks were tense. I jumped at every unexpected sound, changed the locks on my apartment, installed a security system, kept looking over my shoulder. Jake had been arrested but released on bail. The criminal charges were complicated: corporate espionage, theft of intellectual property. The legal process would take months. I heard through office gossip that Alan had taken a step back from Jake's legal defense, that he'd refused to pay for an expensive lawyer, that something had fractured between them beyond repair. 3 weeks after the incident, I was working late. The office was nearly empty. I was reviewing documentation for the promotion I'd finally received when I heard a voice behind me. You ruined my life. I froze, my fingers hovering over my keyboard. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I recognized Jake's voice. Lower now, rougher around the edges, but unmistakably him. You're not supposed to be in the building, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Your access was revoked. He laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. Turns out there are ways around security systems if you know who to pay. My heart hammered in my chest. We were alone on this floor. Most of the lights were dimmed. Security did rounds, but they were predictable. Every hour, on the hour. It was 8:27 p.m. I slowly turned my chair. Jake stood 10 feet away, unshaven, wearing jeans and a hoodie instead of his usual designer clothes. His eyes were bloodshot, his posture tense. You should leave, I said, reaching for my phone on the desk. Before security finds you. I know it was you, he said, taking a step closer. I know you went through my locker. Security found the prototypes. I corrected him. I had nothing to do with it. Bullshit. Another step closer. No one else knew my combination. And those emails to my dad? That was a nice touch. I stood up, putting the desk between us. Jake, you're making things worse for yourself right now. If you leave immediately, I won't report this. He ignored me. My father won't even look at me. My court date is next week. My life is over. And for what? I wasn't even selling them. Not really. You took 6 prototypes worth $250,000. I was showing them off, impressing a girl. I was going to bring them back. After you let a competitor examine our proprietary technology, he slammed his hand down on my desk, making me flinch. You self-righteous bitch. You think you're so perfect, so loyal to the company. You've been here 6 years, and what do you have to show for it? A desk by the window? A small raise every year? I said nothing, my fingers finding my phone behind me. You know what's funny? He continued, voice dropping. Dad was never going to promote you. Ever. He told me that. Said you were too valuable where you were. The perfect worker bee. That stung, even though I knew he was just trying to hurt me. And now? Congratulations on your promotion, earned by destroying my life. He leaned forward. I'm curious. Did it feel good? Watching me get arrested? Seeing my father's face when he realized what you'd done? You did this to yourself, I said quietly. You stole from the company. You betrayed your father's trust. So why didn't you just tell him? Why the elaborate setup? Why send those emails? Because I knew Alan wouldn't believe me. Because I needed irrefutable evidence. Because Jake had been making my work life hell for 8 months, and no one would listen. But I didn't say any of that. Please leave, Jake. He stared at me for a long moment, then smiled coldly. Fine, but this isn't over. He backed away toward the elevator, keeping his eyes on me. You should watch your back, Claire. You never know who might be watching you. After he was gone, I collapsed into my chair, shaking. I called security and reported the breach. They reviewed the camera footage, confirming Jake had somehow gotten in using a custodial access card. They promised to increase patrols and file a report. I worked from home the next 2 days. Couldn't face going into the office. Couldn't stop looking over my shoulder. Couldn't sleep without checking the locks 3, 4 times. When I finally returned, there was a company-wide email announcing that Alan had taken a leave of absence. Medical reasons, effective immediately. Emily Chen from corporate would be taking over as interim department manager. People whispered in the break room. Some said Alan had a breakdown. Others said corporate had forced him out. The truth was probably somewhere in between. Emily was competent, direct, and entirely unfamiliar with our team dynamics. She scheduled one-on-ones with everyone. When my turn came, she closed her office door and got straight to the point. I've been reviewing personnel files, she said, tapping a folder on her desk. Your performance reviews are exemplary, but you've been passed over for promotion multiple times. Can you tell me why? I hesitated. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Alan. She studied me carefully. The timing of your promotion is interesting. The same week his son was caught stealing company property. My mouth went dry. I believe the position opened up due to restructuring. She made a note. The security report mentioned you were the one who alerted them to check Jake's locker. I noticed suspicious activity, I said carefully. I reported it through proper channels. She nodded slowly. Claire, I need to know if there's anything else I should be aware of regarding this situation. Did she know about the emails? About my methodical dismantling of Jake's life? I couldn't tell. No, I said. Nothing else. She didn't look convinced, but she moved on. Fine. Let's discuss your new responsibilities. The weeks passed. Jake's case moved through the legal system. He pleaded guilty to lesser charges, theft rather than corporate espionage, got probation, community service, and a hefty fine. No jail time. I kept expecting retaliation. More broken windows, slashed tires, something, but nothing came. Alan returned after 6 weeks. He looked better physically, rested, less haggard, but something had changed in him. The aggressive confidence was gone. He was quieter, more thoughtful. He avoided me when possible. In meetings, he deferred to my expertise in ways he never had before. The power dynamic had shifted, subtly but unmistakably. On my way to lunch one day, I passed his office. His door was open. On his desk was a new family photo. Alan with an older woman and man, presumably his parents. No Jake. He looked up and caught me looking. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something there. Not anger, not accusation, but a deep, resigned understanding. He knew, maybe not exactly what I'd done or how I'd done it, but he knew I was responsible. I nodded slightly. He nodded back. A silent acknowledgement passed between us. 2 months after Jake's arrest, I received a text from another unknown number. Coffee? We should talk. This time, I didn't block it immediately. Who is this? Mia from Vertex. Jake's friend. Former friend. My blood ran cold. The woman from the competitor. The one Jake had been trying to impress. How did you get my number? Jake had it in his contacts. Please, I just want to talk. Neutral location. Public place. I should have said no. Should have blocked her too. Instead, curiosity won out. When and where? We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown, halfway between our offices. I arrived early, chose a table with clear sight lines to all exits, and waited. Mia was younger than I expected. Mid-20s, with short dark hair and intense eyes. She sat across from me with a nervous energy, clutching her coffee cup too tightly. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I've wanted to talk to you since everything happened. How do you know I was involved? I asked, skipping the pleasantries. She gave a small smile. Jake wouldn't stop talking about you. After he was arrested, after the emails, he was obsessed with how you'd orchestrated everything. I didn't orchestrate anything, I said automatically. She waved away my denial. It doesn't matter. I'm not here about that. She leaned forward. I'm here because I need your help. My help? With what? Her expression turned serious. Jake wasn't just showing me your company's prototypes, Claire. He was using me too. Mia glanced around the coffee shop before continuing. Jake wasn't just stealing prototypes to impress me. He was collecting information, using both our companies. What do you mean? She pulled out her phone, opened an app, and slid it across the table. On the screen was a conversation between Jake and someone named Devin. I scrolled through messages discussing product specs, development timelines, and trade secrets, not just from my company, but from Vertex too. He was playing both sides, Mia said quietly. Getting information from your company to impress me, then using my trust to get information about Vertex. He was building his own database of industry secrets. For what purpose? I asked, still scrolling through the messages. To sell to the highest bidder, she said. He had contacts with at least 3 startup companies trying to break into the market. He was planning to use this information as leverage for a high-level position or as blackmail. I handed back her phone, mind racing. Why are you telling me this? Because he still has all that information, she said. The police only found the physical prototypes. They didn't recover any of the data he collected. And now, he's desperate. The legal fees drained his savings. His father cut him off financially. He's been contacting people, trying to sell what he has. Have you gone to the police? She shook her head. With what proof? Those messages don't explicitly show he was planning to sell anything. And, she hesitated. I'd lose my job if Vertex knew I shared confidential information with him, even unintentionally. I studied her face, looking for deception. What exactly do you want from me? I know you have access to the company email archives, Jake told me. I need to know what information he has from your company, what damage he could do. My instinct was to refuse immediately. This could be a trap. Mia could be working with Jake to ensnare me in something worse. but something about her desperation seemed genuine. And if what she was saying was true, Jake was still a threat, not just to me, but to the entire company. "Let me think about it," I said finally. "I'll need time." She nodded, pushing a business card across the table. My personal contact information, not company-related. I took it, not committing to anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. If Jake really was planning to sell company secrets, I needed to stop him. But accessing those archives without proper authorization, even though I technically had access, could cost me my job if discovered. I thought about the team, about the developers who'd poured years into these projects, about the jobs that could be lost if our intellectual property was compromised. By morning, I'd made my decision. I went to work early. The office was nearly empty. I logged into the archive system and began searching through Jake's communications more thoroughly than before. What I found was worse than Mia had suggested. Jake hadn't just been showing off prototypes. He'd been systematically collecting information from multiple departments, development specs, marketing strategies, financial projections. He'd created a comprehensive package of our company's most valuable secrets. And worse, I found evidence that he'd already approached a startup called Next Gen Systems, offering to sell what he had. I saved everything to an encrypted drive and locked it in my desk. Then I called Emily, the interim manager who still worked alongside Alan. "I need to speak with you," I said. "It's urgent." In her office, I laid out what I'd discovered. I was careful not to mention how I'd originally found the information about Jake's locker or the anonymous emails I'd sent Alan. I focused solely on the immediate threat. Emily listened without interruption, her expression growing more serious by the minute. "How did you discover this?" she finally asked. "I was contacted by someone from Vertex Tech," I said. Deciding honesty was the safest approach. They had concerns that Jake Howard had collected sensitive information from both companies. "And you decided to investigate on your own rather than reporting this immediately?" I needed to confirm if the threat was real before raising an alarm, I said. "Now I have proof." She was silent for a long moment, then reached for her phone. "We need to bring in legal and security. This goes beyond a simple theft now." The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. I sat in meetings with corporate security, legal teams, and executives. I explained everything I'd found, showed them the evidence, named Next Gen Systems. The company moved quickly. They obtained an emergency injunction against Jake to prevent him from distributing any proprietary information. They contacted Next Gen with cease and desist orders. They reached out to Vertex, initiating an unusual cooperation between competitors to address the shared threat. Alan was notably absent from these meetings. When I finally saw him in the hallway, he looked at me with an unreadable expression. "You knew," he said softly. "You knew all along what he was doing." "Not the full extent," I answered honestly. "Not until recently." He nodded slowly. "Was it worth it?" The question caught me off guard. Was what worth it? Bringing him down. Was it worth what it's cost you? I thought about the sleepless nights, the broken window, the constant looking over my shoulder. "I didn't do it to bring him down," I said. "I did it to protect the team." He studied my face for a long moment. "You know," he told me, "it was you who sent those emails." He was convinced you orchestrated everything. My heart stuttered. "And what did you say?" I told him he was giving you too much credit. A sad smile crossed his face. "I was wrong, wasn't I?" Before I could respond, he continued. "I've submitted my resignation. Effective end of month. Sometimes the cost of our mistakes is too high to keep paying it." He walked away, shoulders slightly bowed under an invisible weight. 2 days later, Jake was arrested again, this time for attempted corporate espionage and violation of his probation. The evidence against him was overwhelming. No expensive lawyer could help him now. Mia kept her job at Vertex. Both companies agreed to a rare collaboration to strengthen their security protocols against future threats. Neither publicly acknowledged what had happened. Emily became our permanent manager. Under her leadership, our department flourished. People stopped walking on eggshells. Mistakes were addressed openly rather than hidden. Work became enjoyable again. As for me, I received a second promotion. 6 months later, Senior Product Development Manager. My name appeared on patent applications. My opinions carried weight in planning meetings. Sometimes I think about Alan, who moved to another state to start over. I heard he teaches business ethics at a community college now. There's an irony there that's not lost on me. I think about Jake, too. serving his sentence. I wonder if he understands yet that his downfall wasn't my vendetta. It was his own choices, his own arrogance, his belief that the rules didn't apply to him. The broken window in my apartment was fixed. The texts stopped. The fear of retaliation faded. What remains is a lesson I never expected to learn. Sometimes protecting yourself means letting others face the consequences of their actions. Sometimes loyalty needs to be directed toward those who deserve it, not those who demand it. I don't feel like a hero in this story. I made calculations. I took risks. I exposed a wrong but hurt people in the process. Alan didn't deserve to lose a son, even one like Jake. But 12 people kept their jobs. Our company's future remained secure, and a workplace bully discovered that being untouchable is just an illusion. If you've stayed with me until now, thank you for listening. I wonder what you would have done in my place. Would you have acted sooner, later, differently? I still ask myself these questions. And if my story resonated with you, if you've ever stood up against someone who seemed untouchable, let me know. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these difficult choices makes them a little easier to bear.